Whoever takes a pinch of salt from the tomb of Ateş Pazveli and adds it to his own food, his abundance will be abundance, his food will taste sweet. Of course, these are not our stories. These are the stories of our ancestors in the past that we are passing on to people. I am Ulaş TEKERKAYA, a master who is trying to pass on Seljuk and Mevlevi cuisine to people in Konya, trying to keep our culture and tradition alive.
I have been relying on breakfast meats for 12 years as a protocol opener. I looked at the protocol, and one of my commanders said, "What did Mevlana eat?" It's not just oven kebab and etli ekmek. I started with a word of research, and in the year 2009, after traveling 4,000 kilometers and trying the dishes of 130 people, I had not operated it in the Turkish air usefulness to the benefit of the Turkish Air Force.
Somat means table. Somat means the person who sets the table. In the Mevlevi Dervish Lodge, the 10th of the 18 duties is the table setter. Fihimafi means whatever is within, the essence of the essence within the essence within the essence. It is also the name of one of the works of Hazrat Mevlana. 1228 is the date when Hazrat Ateş Pazveli came to Mevlana's lodge and cooked the first meal in the lodge. Everyone knows Ateş Pazveli, those who know Mevlevi culture, but he was the head chef of Hazrat Mevlana's lodge and the only chef in the world with a tomb.
The Samachi sets the table, and the Saki takes his place. Saki is the one who gives water. If someone asks for water, he asks with a hand gesture without speaking. And until the person who asks for water drinks it and finishes, all the others wait for him to return to the meal. So that we eat equally, so that there is no injustice. If he has a morsel in his eyebrow, he even leaves it back.
Now, since Mevlevism is a lodge that runs on charity and donations brought by people or donations made to the Dervish lodge, their food culture is not so lavish. It's just food that is made for the sake of satisfying the needy and people who expect nothing but to be full and thankful that day. That is to say, they can spend their meal with dry bread, salt and water. But when you move on to the Ottoman and Seljuk Mukhtar, of course, wealth is a bit more visible. As such, of course, richer tables can be set than the diversity of the kitchens or the products there. There is the simplicity of Mevlevism and the rich tables of Seljuks with a wider range of products. In order not to break the trust potential of people, all historical dishes are available up to the page couplet numbers in the works of Hazrat Mevlana. We tell everyone who wants to know what His Holiness Mevlana said about these dishes with the page couplet number or how they are described in the Seljuk works. While doing this, why were we led to such a thing? We said that if we continue with records, we will be able to make people accept it.
Mevlana Hazretleri is said to be thankful so that you can find stale bread and salt. Therefore, we start the meal with salt. It is also the Prophet's sunnah to start and end with salt. We put salt and stale bread so that we could start eating like dervishes with salt. We start the meal by dipping the bread in salt.
The reason is to be grateful for the blessings of Allah, Sapudari. Gratitude within gratitude is very important here. As salt is harmful for human health, the biggest factor in preventing the disappearance and formation of bacteria in the mouth has been solved by the Devis in 3,300 years, and they started and ended with salt from a fiery kitchen. Then, after the food culture was eaten respectively with the Mevlevi Gulbangi and the meal prayer mentioned in the Holy Quran, we completed the veil by closing our hands behind our backs and then opening our palms and got up from the table.
Our sheikh.
After roasting it with onion, you will roast it with salt so that it will die more quickly. Then add the mint at the end, after the butter. Menu. My creation depends entirely on the seasonally changing products. There are about 45 kinds of products, and 4 of them are soups, mother dishes, and appetizers. We are Konya. Konya is a granary, and why shouldn't I use bulgur pilaf? Why should I use rice? So that we can express ourselves culturally, and so that the foreigners who come to Konya can understand that bulgur is grown in Konya, and that Konya is a granary. Lamb shank with bulgur, also known as tava kebab, contains 12 plant roots. It becomes like this after boiling for about 6 hours. I make bulgur pilaf with turmeric in saffron bola, and we also make bulgur with almonds. We also have a dish called bulgur ashi, which we make. So it consists of 3 kinds. Mutma soup is a soup made by the Seljuks. It is even recorded in the records that Seljuk sultans wrote poems for it. It consists of noodle damuru, lamb meat, and yogurt. Mrs. Metten, can you come and stir the soup and I'll move on to tarhana? The culture that started with every sorak during the time of Mevlana and the Seljuks was later settled in Turkish culture with variations such as keşkek and tarhana. After roasting with onion, you will roast it with salt so that it will be faster. Then you will add the last mint and onion and butter. We make all kinds of meat dishes, both beef and lamb, but since there are undiscovered products, we usually obtain all of the dishes from dried nuts and dried fruits. We emphasize products such as meat with figs, meat with plums, meatballs with almonds, or when you look at it, meat with coffee. I make meat with coffee, with Yemen coffee, and there is something like this in the records. The profession where the existence of coffee is known is also mentioned. And when you look at it, it is said by Mevlana that coffee comes from Yemen. How do I make meat with coffee? I cook it with Yemen coffee, a mixture of Turkish coffee and Yemen coffee with veal and butter for about 25 minutes. Mrs. Gokhan, do something for us. We will process plates. The discovery of products such as tomatoes and cucumbers in the 1600 years brought us into the events of the 1300 years in a purely cultural dimension. The reason why all products are made with nuts and why they change with the seasons is this. Nowadays everyone can find any fruit they want in the winter months, but when you look at the historical dimension 50 years ago, since there was no possibility of finding summer fruit in winter, it was always used by storing it in wells and keeping it in warehouses for years. And when we combine the two with the simplicity of the Seljuk Mevlevi cuisine and the richness of the Seljuk cuisine, we get products with nuts, fruits, and legumes. I use meat with figs and figs with plums, which have an intense aroma, and I cook them in pot kebabs. I usually cook all the dishes in earthen pots, and I cook and serve it in half an hour with julienne tenderloin, butter, a few spices and dried figs. Historically, when you look at the Mevlevi culture and events such as Çatalhöyük in Mesopotamia, all meals were cooked entirely with clay soils and pots. Clay soils were replaced by pots, pots were replaced by coppers, and coppers were replaced by porcelain and steel. In fact, when you look at it, if you are working in that culture, I present it to people because I think that pottery is the easiest way to be close to that culture. In fact, almonds have such a feature. It is a dessert that was made one-to-one during the time of the Prophet Mevlana, and you can even find many sentences in every volume of the Mesnevi. Hazrat Mevlana says about almond halva in Mesnevi, whoever respects it will be respected, whoever brings sugar will eat almond halva. And he goes on to say that almond halva kneaded with walnuts and almonds both sweetens my tongue and my palate and gives light to my eyes, my dear one. Taste it and see how it tastes. I put a little more sugar. That shouldn't be the ratio. Thank you, Master. Enjoy your meal, but it tastes great. Sherbet has a very big place in Mevlevi and Seljuk cuisine. Actually, there is something like this. After the Mevlevi and Seljuk cuisine, Ottoman cuisine was completely revolutionized. Why is sherbet groundbreaking? From the discovery of herbs in Seljuk and Mevlevi cuisine, a wider range was awakened in Ottoman cuisine, and when you look at it, the Ottomans used sherbet for everything.
Can we have 5 toothpaste rose sherbet?
5 dental foods, 5 sherbets, okay? I don't serve any of today's drinks in my kitchen. I always tell our guests this. We don't have those kinds of drinks. But if you want, we have sherbets from Seljuk and Mevlevi cuisine. It is completely different to see Mevlana from afar. It is a completely different thing to be able to research or read Mevlana or to see the philosophical way he looked at life. But there is something like this when a person is already immersed in Mevlana's culture, a lot of accumulation comes out automatically. And after that, with that spirituality, one finds oneself already in it. I teach at the university myself, and I always advise my students in this respect. I say that there is no point in dealing with anything that has no source, that has no origin, because the reason is this. When you say mastery, you mean knowledge, or you understand meat, you understand machinery, you understand grain. Anyone can be a master, anyone can cook, but cooking is a work of art, in my opinion. Because if you can't invent your art well, if you can't play it well on stage, your work has no meaning. When you ask me what kind of a master you are, I only say this. I thank Allah and give thousands of thanks to the scholar, believing that what I do is right, and giving something I don't like to someone else is the biggest loss for me. That's why I always say that mastery is not what you know yourself, but what you eat, what you drink, what you do yourself. That is, to be able to present the product you have created with skill to the person in the best way.